in playoff mode. We have with us Ian Begley,
What
Fred
this week
Katz,
is for.
Stefan Bondy. The Knicks beat us here, and we were just opening up with our thoughts on Jalen Brunson. Fred, if you could just run it back on your thoughts there. We'll just start from the top. My fault, man.
Yeah, I mean the thing with Brunson that I was saying before, which by the way, me on mute is like exactly what I think 80% of people want to hear from me on a podcast. So
Yeah.
props to you for finally figuring out the correct formula.
Yeah.
But what Thibs says all the time is that, he sees what happens behind the scenes, and to him it's been this steady progression. And on the outside, it might seem like it's been overnight to where Brunson has taken this leap. And I actually don't think it seems like it's been overnight at all. We've seen this very steady progression from him where he shows up last year and he's better than expected to begin the season, his first year with the Knicks, but he hits a whole other level in the second half, averages 27 a game after I think it was January 4th till the end of the regular season. Come the playoffs, he takes his game to another level, right? He scores 41 in that game that ends the Miami series, and he was fantastic in that series, even though the Knicks lose it. Then this year, he comes out an even better player at the start of the year. Then Randall gets hurt. He starts moving like crazy off the ball. He starts taking an even more important burden on the offense. His passing has hit a whole other level. The way he's beating traps now, there's not really any coverage you can run against him that works. The way his jump shooting, his pull-up shooting, he's hit all these steps, and all of a sudden it's just built up to where he's just one of the NBA's premier offensive engines now. There are only a handful of guys who you can say, give the ball to and say, create offense, and they'll be better at it than him. Like very, very few. And I really think it's been this steady progression, which has been incredible to watch. I'm sure Knicks fans would agree even more than I would. It's just been incredible to see him go step by step and still maintain all those other steps as he gets there.
Steph, I'll go with you, man. Where would you rank him in your MVP voting? For me, he's at 4. I got Jokic.
At 4, huh?
SGA, Luka, man. Where you got him?
I put him 5 or 6. And I'm gonna go in. And first of all, I wish I had that Fred mute button when I'm on deadline.
He's not even kidding. I talk to him so
kidding.
much when he's on deadline, and I told
Fred,
him
can you stop
he could
talking to me?
Could just curse me out. I just tell him to curse me out.
But I'm gonna go in a different direction with Jalen than my previous answer when I was on mute too. The leadership that he brings to this franchise, I think he's the ideal personality for the player you want at the top of the totem pole. Yeah. Just in terms of how he wants to bring guys together, how he's low maintenance. You don't get that often. I mean, you get it with a guy like Steph Curry, and the San Antonio Spurs had Tim Duncan. I don't think he's that level type of player, but I think the personality matches those kind of guys, and that's the guy you want as your number one guy. And I think that as much as the way he's playing has been important to the team success and the team chemistry, I think a big thing coming out of the locker room yesterday was we don't point fingers. And some other teams that we've seen in that locker room, in the years past with the Knicks, we did see that finger pointing. So I think it starts at the top with Jalen Brunson in terms of a leader and a personality. I think that's been just as important and just as glaring as the season has unfolded.
Ian, when Steph talks about the culture and starting from the top, we got to go with Tom Thibodeau, right? And you guys have been here the longest and seen some of the dysfunction, the chaos. I mean, to me, this is Tibbs' best job that he's done since he's been here, and probably as a coach, his best job since he took that 2013 Bulls team to the playoffs with like Nate Robinson and those guys. I mean, what have you made of Tibbs and his impact on this team this year?
Yeah, I think the adjustments offensively to me are pretty impressive because it seems like there's been 2 different offenses. One when R.J. Barrett was here and Julius Randle was healthy, and then after the Barrett and Quickly trade, it just changed in a way that allowed Jalen Brunson to create more, to create shots, and to do more with the ball in his hands and with the ball out of his hands. I don't know if that's just a product of R.J. Barrett not being in the starting lineup anymore, but it seemed like things were different. They were in different actions after RJ got traded. So I think you credit Thibodeau there. You credit Thibodeau with a guy like Miles McBride, who they've had since day one. They've watched him since day one. They've helped him grow since day one. Obviously, you credit the player for improving and for what he's done on the court, but just the idea that he's in this position to get in the rotation and make the impact that he's made, I think you have to credit Tom Thibodeau and the coaching staff. And so you just wonder, like, you don't wonder if he's going to get the extension at this point. It's when. I do think the playoff results will matter. I mean, if they get flamed out in the first round, I'm sure there's going to be some questions in some corners about his future, but based on where we are today, it's a no-brainer to me that he has earned the extension. And one thing about the culture, I think more so it happens in the locker room among players than it does with coaches. I think that's where it gets set and it gets established. You know, coaches can talk about the right habits and being committed to winning, but inside the locker room, if that's the case, which it seems to be with the Knicks, you've got great chemistry, you've got great culture. And if it's not, particularly from your leader, it's not going to work out. So right now, the Knicks have that elusive chemistry thanks to Brunson and the leadership in that room.
Fred, what's been your thoughts on the evolution of Thibs this year?
I think it's a great point by Ian about it being the players. It's a little bit of everything, because I do think it's very obvious the front office has gone out of its way to say, we are going to go out and get players who fit the personality of Thibs and who fit the personality of this team. And when people ask me about it, the one conversation that I've had this season that I keep coming back to is a conversation I had with Isaiah Hartenstein probably a couple of months ago, where I was talking about kind of how, like, this is Thibs's, we were talking about how this is kind of just like a Thibs dream team in terms of personalities and the way that they play, not even necessarily from talent perspective. And Isaiah, for what it's worth, was the one who used the term dream. And we're talking about it. And Isaiah makes this comment to me and he says, yeah, if you don't, we're talking about how everybody defends and guys want to play physical and they want to get hit. And if they don't get hit, they'll hit you just so that they get hit in retaliation, and the style that they play. And Isaiah says, well, yeah, if you don't play like that, you just can't play here. And to me, a player saying that is really indicative of the culture in that locker room, right? It's indicative of having guys like Josh Hart, of Jalen Brunson, of Deuce McBride, of plenty of others who kind of have that sort of mentality and approach with that mentality. I don't think they have that mentality because of Thibs, but I think when they see Thibs, who has that mentality as well, and they already have that mentality, I think a lot of them are like, oh, hell yeah. You know, I think it just kind of continues to build on each other. And look, Thibs is extremely intense. He is extremely passionate. He is, in that sense, what his reputation makes you think he is. And there are guys in that locker room who will laugh about how intense he is. I think it wouldn't surprise anybody to know that Josh Hart makes a lot of jokes about Thibs's intensity, but it's not because he doesn't like Thibs's intensity. He loves Thibs's intensity. You know, he feeds off of that. It just entertains him as he does it. And it so rolls off of his shoulder when he talks about it. And I think a lot of it has to do with kind of who these guys are as people. And they just seem to, from a personality standpoint, mesh really well with each other, as well as meshing well with the coaching staff. I think that's why you get that kind of perceived cohesion that we see with them all the time.
Steph, one of your articles earlier in the preseason was talking about Thibs and him being deserving of that contract extension. Do you think that comes in the offseason? How do you think they go forward with Thibs?
I do. I do think it comes in the offseason. Now, as Ian said, things can change if the playoffs are a disaster, but everything that I'm hearing is that the extension should happen in the summer. And it's deserving. Listen, when they hired Tom Thibodeau, I think there were 4 knocks on him. One was he's too rigid. He doesn't develop players. Again, relies on veterans too much.
Yeah.
He wears his guys down and he doesn't have playoff success. I think we can throw 2 of those completely out of the window now. One being that he's too rigid. He is adapted with this team at every corner and every opportunity. And the other is player development. Almost too many to list, but I can try. Players are having their best seasons of their career this season under Tom Thibodeau. Isaiah Hartenstein, Dante DiVincenzo, Jalen Brunson. I'm sure there are others I'm missing, and Miles McBride. So even guys who left that he soured on, guys like Cam Reddish and Obi Toppin, that Knicks fans were like, hey man, you should give those guys bigger opportunities. When they left, they haven't really done much either. So I think he's identified the proper talents, the right talents for his system. He's putting them in the best position. Precious Achiuwa is another one. Put them in the best positions to succeed. And you know, he's done a great job doing that. So I think we can throw some of those Thibs reputations out of the window already.
So to everybody in the chat, once again, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. CP the Franchise, Ian Begley, Fred Katz, Stefan Bondy. We got the Knicks Beat All-Stars in the building. And this is the Knicks season debrief and the playoff preview, man. Once again, hit the like button, hit the share button, and subscribe to the channel. You guys all spoke on the unity and the culture in the locker room. First and foremost, who was bumping the Nelly Furtado on full tilt last night after the game? Was that coming from Josh Hart's radio?
I think it was
strength and training room.
Yeah, the strength and training room. Also, I don't know if you guys heard that one, but there was some Backstreet Boys bumping too.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
It got a little crazy.
Josh Hart, for what it's worth, I don't know if Josh put it on, but Josh was screaming in a falsetto.
Oh my goodness, that's hilarious.
So he was participating.
Ian, for you, who's the player that you either learned the most about this year, that, you know, things that you weren't aware of, or the player that you were most impressed with? Non-Brunson. Let's talk about the rest of the team. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm going to go Miles McBride, because you go back to when they were approaching the trade deadline, I know that there were some people with the coaching staff who felt like, we're going to shorten this rotation after we make move X, and Miles is probably going to be out of the rotation, and he was playing well at that point. And just the idea that because of his play, he's in the rotation. He surpassed Alec Burks. He's not allowing the coaching staff to take him out of this rotation. And, you know, he's always said, like, if he gets the opportunity, he knows what he can do. And it sounds, when you've been covering sports for a while, it kind of sounds like a cliche, but it was the absolute truth with Miles McBride. He got his opportunity. He took advantage of it. And the shooting, yes, surprised me. But also, as you watch him more and more, it seems like he's more comfortable with the ball in his hands, making a play off the dribble. And that's not something you had seen in years past with him. He would knock shots down here and there, but he wasn't making a lot of plays off the ball. So it's just the continued progression there. And the mental strength to stay locked in when you're totally out of the rotation and to be ready when your moment comes. He took advantage of it. Credit to him.
Steph, how about you?
Probably one of two guys, Isaiah Hartenstein or Dante DiVincenzo. I'll pick Dante. I mean, the guy came in. He was coming off the bench at first. He was signed as a reserve behind Quentin Grimes. And he got an opportunity, and he just grabbed it, man. And he's been, I mean, I know people aren't mentioning him for most improved player. I think he should be mentioned. His confidence is through the roof. He's taken this role and turned it into something that I don't think anybody could have predicted. So yeah, Dante is the guy, and he's shooting, I think, the higher percentage than he did last year in three-pointers at a much higher volume. The shots are difficult. He's complemented Jalen Brunson perfectly, and I understand they were college roommates and best friends, so it's almost natural. But they need him because, you know, absent Julius Randle, they need scoring, and Dante DiVincenzo has provided that in a big way.
Does it surprise you that he's not really mentioned in the MIP conversation? I mean, I'm just looking at, you know, one example of Mark Steinline's newsletter. He doesn't even have him in the six guys that he's considering.
Yeah, I listen, I haven't gone completely down the list, so I don't know who I'd try to take out. We just did the putback with Tim Bontemps. He actually has a vote. I don't have a vote this year. But he was voting actually Jalen Brunson #1.
Wow.
You can't argue with that either.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I'd have to look at the list. I think but in terms of what I saw from Dante before this season and what I'm seeing from him now, I mean, he should be mentioned.
No question. Fred, how about you? The player you learned the most about or were the most impressed with non-Jalen Brunson, not Jalen Brunson?
If Ian hadn't said Deuce McBride, I would say Deuce McBride, because I do think it's one of the best in terms of just stories. I think it's one of the best development stories during the Thibs era. Just kind of him growing from his issue was shooting. He could not shoot. It wasn't just that he couldn't create space. He could not shoot. And now all of a sudden, defenses are in a frenzy whenever he touches the ball. He's not just a shooter. He's a spacer. He's getting respect from every defense. But because Ian laid it out so well, I'll say Isaiah Hartenstein, who I think has found the perfect mix of the way he played with the Clippers and the way he played last year with the Knicks, where he was really good the second half of last year with the Knicks.
Yeah.
And I think it took a little bit of time for him to kind of realize, okay, this is how I'm going to play. With the Clippers, they're running their offense through him in the high post, and he's facilitating and he's passing and he's doing a good job protecting the rim and all this different kind of stuff. And Thibs kind of at the start turns him into more of kind of a Tibbsy sort of center. And he's screening and rolling, and he's not really going to get opportunities to touch the ball that much. And after Randall gets hurt, all of a sudden, Hartenstein becomes so much more involved in the offense. And now he's involved in all these dribble handoffs. He's involved in all of these screen and rolls with Brunson, where when defenses go and trap Brunson, he's the outlet to get the ball. And by the way, Brunson is so much better at passing to the screener on those plays than he used to be, which allows Hartenstein to go down and attack. I think offensively, he has been really, really good and an extremely valuable connector for them. And if you look at the advanced numbers on him, I'll tell you one thing, the league has to change. I'm into the 65 game rule because I like that it forces guys to play, but the actual details of it are really off. Isaiah Hartenstein is not going to be eligible for all defense. And I don't know if I would or wouldn't have him on my list, but he played 75 games this year. And because he played too many games of fewer than 20 minutes, he's not going to hit the 65 game played limit, which is just a really confusing way to put it in the rules. So he's not eligible. And you look at the advanced numbers, like you look at the defensive estimated plus minus, he literally leads the league.
Wow.
He is putting up these tremendous defensive performances, blocking shots around the rim, being a really good team defender, getting his hands on balls. And you talk to Isaiah about it. And I think at first he's never explicitly said this because he's not the kind of guy who would. But I always kind of got the feeling that he wasn't all the way bought in on Thibs kind of making him into this kind of sort of Tibbsian sort of more off the ball kind of center. And at some point, I don't know, during his time with the Knicks, he started to see it. And he's talked about how Thibs is so prepared for games and how he feels more prepared now for games than he's ever felt in his career because he knows the other team's tendencies so well and how they prep. And he credits Thibs with that kind of stuff. So I think at some point he was like, I just got to start doing what this guy says. And I think he's playing the best ball of his life.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's going to get in free agency this summer. He is going to get paid. I'll tell you that much. And I think it'll be deserving. He's had a really good season for them. And I think even if Mitchell Robinson were totally what he was at the start of the year coming back from the injury, I think there's an argument you keep Hartenstein as the starter anyway. He's just playing that well right now.
If he were to leave, just a name or two, who do you think is the biggest threat to snag Hartenstein in the offseason if you have to name a team? Is it OKC? Spurs?
That sounds like an Ian Begley question.
Yeah,
I don't know the
think?
answer. I think OKC makes a lot of sense for them basketball wise.
Yeah.
OKC also doesn't sign free agents. I think the biggest free agency contract OKC has ever given out was Patrick Patterson, which was like 3 years, $15.7 million.
Yeah.
And Hartenstein would probably require more than that in just year one starting salary, let alone total over 3 years. OKC doesn't really do that, but I do agree from basketball perspective, he would be really good for them. I also think long-term, they really like Chet as a center. So I don't know if it'll be him, but I don't know. Detroit has 60 million of room and Detroit has Duren and they have Isaiah Stewart, but they also love centers. And we don't know what their front office is going to be. And they might strike out other places and say, screw it. Give Isaiah Hartenstein a bunch of money. He's really good. I don't know where it's going to come from. I haven't done my research yet, but I do think he's getting paid because he's a good player and he's having a good year and he's still young.
Ian, OG Anunoby, you spoke about injuries earlier. OG Anunoby with the elbow. Any word on how he's doing? Is there still pain there, the tendinopathy? Any update on OG?
Yeah, we spoke about it a little earlier. I haven't seen anything on the floor. I've seen him take some contact. I've seen him, he's dunking the ball. He's in the mix where he's getting banged around, and he hasn't come off the floor at all for, an elbow issue. And he's come back and played the next day. So that to me tells you that they're in a good place with the elbow. I know that there was, just frustration and uncertainty around it for a while there when he missed 9 games. But just based on how he's bounced back each game since he's been back, I think he's in a good place. And with the playoffs, no back-to-back. So I think that'll be an advantage for Anunoby and the other players who are kind of banged up. You always have to worry about it considering how we got to this place, and I think that they'll be, careful as they have been. But I haven't seen anything to date since he's coming back that's led me to say, hey, I don't know about OG. But one thing on OG, mentioned it earlier too. Obviously we all think he's going to re-sign with the Knicks. I think he's going to re-sign with the Knicks. But one thing I heard recently was Philadelphia. If they can't get in on Paul George with the Clippers, if he's not available, if he signs an extension with Paul George with the Clippers, then they have interest in OG Anunoby, and they have cap space. And, I think they would be aggressive if Paul George is not an option to try and get in on Anunoby. Now, obviously, Knicks make that kind of a trade like you did for Anunoby, you're going to re-sign him. But I thought that was interesting. I just heard that the other day. But yeah, no health stuff, I don't think, to be overly concerned about with his elbow.
Boy, if they let them go down the turnpike, Thanksgiving at the Rose household might not be so good, man. Steph, what do you think about OG, the contract, and just overall, I mean, his impact on the team? I mean, the plus minus since he's gotten here, only lost 3 games with him in the lineup. What's been your impressions of OG?
I mean, he's been a glue guy, the guy that they haven't had on this team for a long time in terms of the defensive versatility, and the guy you can just say, all right, you're going to guard everybody. You know what I mean? Like, remember when they said RJ Barrett was going to be that guy, and that did not work out nearly as well. And in terms of his contract situation, the Sixers, they wouldn't be above trying to drive the price up for the Knicks to make him sign him for a lot more. And believe me, the Knicks are going to go there. They do not make that trade, as Ian said, without wanting to re-sign him. And a lot of how we're going to feel about OG and whatever number he's going to get is going to unfold in these next few weeks. They signed him with the purpose of being a better team in the playoffs, and we're going to see how he's going to match up. That first round matchup is going to be a doozy. Is he going to go up against Jimmy Butler? Well, who would he guard against Philly? Are they going to try to put him on Tyrese Maxey? I don't think so. Joel Embiid's probably a little bit too big to make him the primary defender. So that's going to be an interesting matchup if they go up against Philly, and we'll see right away all the versatility that they've been touting with OG Anunoby.
Fred,
and by the way, Fred, I'm confused by Fred telling me that nobody signs in OKC because he's telling me it's the greatest city in the world.
I loved OKC.
Is
Great
that
place to live.
Is that one of you guys' favorite road cities, OKC?
No, it's the worst. Except for Fred.
Hey, I lived there.
The karaoke's great.
The Thunder. I lived there. I have fun. Great people there. I enjoy OKC. Steph can crap on it all he wants. I like it.
Dude, everything closes at 9 p.m.
Maybe 8. Maybe 8. Maybe 8. But when it's open,
it's rocking. It's rocking.
It's solid.
Oh, my goodness. CP the franchise here. Once again, we are talking to the Knicks beat all-stars, Ian Begley, Fred Katz, Stefan Bondy in the building. Salute to everybody in the chat, man. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Remember that today's episode is brought to you by Jordan Craig. Check out Jordan Craig's latest styles and streetwear at jordancraig.com and use our code KFTV20 for 20% off your first order, man. Jordan Craig styling and profiling with many Knicks. Formerly Emmanuel Quickley was a Jordan Craig athlete. So they've been in the game for over 30 years and been providing NYC's finest with the top gear. So make sure you guys check them out. Once again, jordancraig.com. Use promo code KFTV20 for 20% off your first order. Ian, order of business. We have Philly. We have Miami Heat on Wednesday. Play-in tournament. What do you think is which team do you think is the best matchup for the Knicks, Miami or Philly?
Yeah, but before I go there, CP, when we're done, I'm going to send you my address. Just hook me up.
I got you. I got you with the hoodies, man. And shout out to Sky Zoo, man. Sky Zoo just sent this to me in the mail today. I got home from the garden today and just eyeing this out, man. The white version of the Retropolitan t-shirt. So shout out to Sky Zoo, man.
He also, Sky Zoo designed this hat. I forget which hat company it is. It's New York Forever on the back.
Yeah.
I love it, man. I love it. So shout out. I love you, Sky Zoo.
Shout out to our guy.
Sorry. So I think it's just because of Joel Embiid. I mean, maybe it's reductive. Maybe I'm not digging in enough, but I just see Embiid as this huge force in any 7-game series. And even if he's not scoring the ball, you still have to deal with him. He's still going to get you in foul trouble. And it just presents a huge challenge for any team that faces them over 7 games. You know, assuming he's healthy. He sat out the regular season finale. Tim Bontemps reported that it was just precautionary, so we'll assume he's healthy. I think if they get through there, the tougher matchup. So if you're talking about, if you're the Knicks, who do you want to face? Then it's Miami. I mean, Miami, I understand the history. I understand how many times they've come from the bottom of the standings to make a huge run. And I don't want to discount that. But it seems like, you know, no Gabe Vincent, no Max Struss. This team is not the same as it was, although nobody saw last year coming. So maybe that's a little short-sighted. But even, you know, with Tyler Hero, he'll be back and he's going to be healthy. And it just doesn't seem like the same offense. And we haven't seen Jimmy Butler lock in and dominate games yet at all, I don't think, towards the end of the regular season. So maybe he flips a switch for the play-in. But I think given all of that, I would go Miami over Philly if I was the Knicks and I had a choice.
Steph, agree or disagree? What do you think?
So I'm not going to say this yet because my column is coming out on this later.
Cliffhanger. Let's
go.
I
will play devil's advocate to Ian, and I'm not saying this is my opinion, but he's talking about they don't have Max Strus and they don't have Gabe Vincent. I mean, come on. Who are we talking about here? Come on.
They killed them here.
I mean, come on. Let's be real here. It's not
no Kyle Lowry, no Cody Zeller. Was Zeller?
All right. Well, I mean, they do have Terry Rozier, and I'm not the biggest fan of Terry Rozier. And Tyler Hero is going to be back. So, listen, I'm not gonna discount the Miami Heat because they're missing Gabe Vincent and Max Strus. So I'm just gonna say that.
Fred.
Fair. And check out the New York Post tomorrow.
There you go. Check out the New York Post.
Check it out.
Take the app, the paper, website,
the whole thing. We got a bunch of platforms.
Fred, what do you think?
Neither is ideal. I do think Philly has an argument as the second best team in the Eastern Conference with Joel Embiid, 31-8 with Joel Embiid in the lineup. And when you're going up against Joel Embiid, there might be nothing you can do about not having the best player in the series. And I know that's scary, but it's not like you've got some sort of significant coaching disadvantage with Philadelphia or something like that. Nick Nurse is a hell of a coach. Spoelstra's as great as it gets. Yeah. But Nick Nurse is a hell of a coach. And I'm going to say the thing that everybody ends up regretting saying going into the playoffs every year. I'm just worried about Miami's offense. They can't score. Bottom 10 in points per possession. And one of the things that was really interesting about their run last year, so when they're playing the Knicks last year in the second round, and if you remember, they beat Milwaukee in the 1-8 first round series. And during that series against Milwaukee, there are a number of times where the game comes down to the wire and Milwaukee makes these awful, almost unforgivable crunch time plays, and Jimmy Butler just capitalized on it every time, right? And Miami pulls away, and they end up winning that series because of all those clutch time moments.
We just lost,
and I'm talking to
Steph. Go ahead, Fred.
Oh, I'm talking to somebody with the Heat during that series, and I kind of mentioned, there were a few games in that series Milwaukee should have won. They couldn't. Person says, I hate that. I hate it when people say that. I said, why? He says, Milwaukee played the second fewest clutch time games during the regular season. We played, I think Miami played the most or the second most. Milwaukee tensed up because they never had those moments. And for the Heat, a game that was close at the end, it wasn't that they were super clutch. It was that a game that came down to the wire was just another day at the office. Whereas Milwaukee just blew everybody out through the regular season. So when the game got tense at the very end, Milwaukee was not used to the situation and Miami was. And you go through it again, Miami has played a whole ton of clutch games again throughout this season. But what I don't know what to make of it is that they can't score down the stretch of games. So like this person who says this to me is a really smart person who works for the Heat and turned out to be completely right with everything this person prophesized. But Miami has the third worst clutch time offense in the NBA during the regular season. The only two teams that are worse at scoring during clutch time games are Washington and Detroit. That is not the company you want to be in. And yet they're still playing all of these games. So I look at the product and I'm like, Miami is 21st in offense. They're struggling to score when they play through Bam at the nail. They're struggling to score when they play through Jimmy. They're struggling to score at the end of the game when they need points. And yet they're still getting all of these things that it's like, so reminiscent of what they did last year. And I'm so worried about this point just being thrown into my face when Miami is playing Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals. But that being said, I'll just take Philadelphia, because when in doubt, when you got the best coach in the league as one choice and the best player arguably in the league as another choice, I shouldn't say he's the best player in the league, but at least the reigning MVP is the other choice, I'd rather face the coach than the player. So I'll say, but I wouldn't want to face either.
And I'll let me say this too about the coaching situation. The three coaches we're talking about here, Tom Thibodeau, Nick Nurse, and Eric Spoelstra, in my opinion, are the three best coaches in the Eastern Conference. And so I don't think there's a big advantage in any direction in any of those matchups.
Yeah, that's very reasonable.
In
the same class.
Ian, I think we can all expect, Brunson to be the constant, to be the workhorse for the Knicks. Who's your X factor here in the playoffs?
I'm going to say Dante DiVincenzo. I think things can swing on his shooting. And, when Jalen Brunson gets trapped, when the second defender comes at Jalen Brunson, if Dante DiVincenzo finds a place and space to be open, he's going to need to knock those shots down for the Knicks to have success. Yeah, so I go there. And I think Bojan Bogdanovic in a small way, because if he comes off the bench and he's hitting shots, which he seemed to be trending in the right direction towards the end of the regular season, if he can give you some minutes where he's giving you offense, that changes the complexion of this team. And I think with no Randall, they're going to be looking for something there off the bench from Bogdanovic. If he can provide it, I think it takes the Knicks to another level.
Big time. Fred, how about you?
I'm going to say Mitchell Robinson. There is no greater disparity on the Knicks right now than for any individual player in terms of the way that the player is playing right now versus the way we know that player is capable of playing when he's at his best. And Mitch was playing great basketball when he got hurt in December. And right now, it's not his fault. He had an ankle injury. He couldn't run. He couldn't do all that stuff. He talks about it all the time. He's not as well conditioned as he wants to be. And he's not performing like the Mitchell Robinson who we saw in the beginning part of the season. And the most likely scenario right now is they play Philadelphia in the first round. And there is going to be some game, no matter how well Isaiah Hartenstein plays in the first round, there is going to be some game, if not multiple, where Joel Embiid is going off. Or where Joel Embiid gets Isaiah Hartenstein in foul trouble early. And the Knicks are going to need Mitchell Robinson to step up in those moments. They're going to need him to keep Embiid off the glass. They're going to need to guard him one-on-one. They're going to need him just to guard him well enough to where they don't feel like they have to frantically double team Embiid every single time, which is going to send the rest of their defense into a scramble. And if Mitch can do that, he doesn't have to be what he was during the first part of the season, and I don't expect him to be. But if he can look like he has kind of in his best moments over these last few weeks, which there have been flashes, then I think all of a sudden the Knicks are in really good shape, because now you got 48 minutes of top-notch defense at center. And if that's the case, the Knicks are actually one of the best teams in the league, one of the best equipped teams in the league to guard Joel Embiid. So I would say Mitchell Robinson, because if they can get something good out of him, then that would just be huge.
I just want to add quickly. I mean, if you get Miami, it's kind of the same thing with Bam Adebayo, who had a great series against New York last year. So they would have their hands full there. Embiid, I think, presents different challenges, more challenges, but Adebayo is pretty good.
And Steph, how about you, man?
I'll go with Josh Hart. We know he's going to play a ton of minutes. I think last year, a big difference between the series that they won against Cleveland and the series that they lost in Miami is Josh Hart did not play well against Miami, and he was tremendous against Cleveland. We all know his shot is up and down. He's found different ways to impact the game, especially this season, which is, I think, the best season of his career. But that shot, he's going to have himself some open opportunities throughout this series, and he's going to have to knock them down. And so I'm picking him as my X factor.
Yeah, I got to go with Hart as well, just for, the amount of workload that he's going to have to compensate for the loss of Julius Randle. Rebounding, maintaining the rebounding edge, especially if you go against Philadelphia. They can match the Knicks in terms of their front court size and their physicality, so he's going to have to be out there getting on the boards. I think it's important for them to actually find easy baskets. You're not going to get a lot of transition opportunities in the postseason, but if you can, Josh Hart has to lead that break. Get them easy baskets at the hoop, because I sometimes am fearful that this team is going to be too jump shot reliant. And when you play teams like even Miami, even when they struggle for offense, they've been one of the top 10 interior defenses for like the last 10 years. So it's going to be hard to get inside on them. And I think Josh Hart is going to have to be one of those guys because you don't have that force that can get to the rim, draw contact, and get to the free throw line and get you some easy buckets. So Josh Hart, from a rebounding, playmaking, and scoring, I think he's going to be vital for these guys.
Mr. Triple-Double.
Mr. Triple-Double. No question about it, man. And once again, we are talking to the Knicks Beat All-Star, CP the franchise here, Ian Begley, Fred Katz, Stefan Bondy in the building. The 50-win Knicks, man, number 2 seed. The Knicks fans are elated right now, and we will find out on Wednesday just who they will face Wednesday night. Will it be the Miami Heat? Will it be the Philadelphia 76ers? Final question for you guys. Ian, I think by and large this has been a successful season, especially when you look at the adversity that they faced and had to come out of. How would you define a successful postseason for this team?
Got to get through the first round, and then, depending on who you have, I think you have a good pathway to the conference final, depending on what that second round matchup is and who's healthy, who isn't healthy. But to me, just as we talked about the year-to-year progression, 47 wins last year, 50 wins this year, despite the injuries and people kind of knowing who you are coming into the year. I think you got to show some kind of progression in the postseason too, whether it's putting up a really good fight in the second round where you're right there, a couple plays away from the conference final or getting to the conference final. But I think a first round exit would be very disappointing.
Fred, how about you?
Yeah, I think speaking from the team's perspective, I think if they lose in the first round, I think they will be disappointed in the result, even if it's, in a hard-fought series against Philly. From my personal perspective, if they fight like hell with Philly and Philly beats them in 7 and then Philly goes on and wins the East or something like that, and it's like, man, the Knicks gave them the toughest draw out of anybody and they just had the bad luck of having to face them in the first round, I would not call that a failure. But I do think from the organization's perspective, like they want to see real progression. They want to see at least one series win. And I'm with Ian. If the Knicks beat Philly or the Knicks beat Miami, and then the second round, you got Milwaukee or you got Indiana, I think those are series. That's a series the Knicks can win, even if it's Milwaukee. They match up well with Milwaukee. Even if Giannis is healthy, they match up well. And I think they match up well with Indiana too. And now we're talking about maybe a conference finals run, which I think everybody can agree would be a smashing success for a team that hasn't even had its second best player for that time.
Speaking of Giannis, it sounds like Giannis rubbed off on you, Fred, with his post-game failure answer to that question.
Hey, you know what?
Not a failure.
Sounds like a failure to me.
Giannis says it's not a failure, and then the Bucks get rid of Bud, and then the Bucks trade Giannis's like best friend for Damian Lillard.
It's so true.
And then the Bucks totally fall off. And then, if the Bucks lose to Indiana or something, we're going to hear the noise again.
Hey,
but it's not a failure. It's not a failure, but all the reactions are just, I think there are degrees. Look, if the Bucks were a number 1 seed that should have trounced everybody and they lost, they got killed by an 8 seed. Like if the Knicks are a team not playing at full strength and Philadelphia is not a 7 seed. Philadelphia is, as constituted, is arguably the second best team in the Eastern Conference. If they beat Boston, that's a failure for Boston. For the Knicks, I think it just more depends on how it happens. If the Knicks got killed by Philly, then I would say that's a failure. They should not get killed by Philly. They're too good to get killed by Philly. If they face them in a really hard-fought series and Joel Embiid plays like an MVP and averages 38 for a series, I'm not going to sit here and say, I would definitely just kill them for that right off the bat, depending on the result. Steph is making a face. He's going to tell me I'm being soft right now.
No, I just wanted to press the mute button because we're running out of time.
He said rapid fire, man. All right, Steph. All right, so what do you think, man? What do you think?
No, I mean, listen, I'm raising the bar here.
Okay.
Conference finals will define whether this season is a success or not. They made it to the second round last year. They won more games than they did last year. I understand it's going to be a tough first-round matchup no matter who they get, but I think they should beat whoever they get in the second round. That includes Milwaukee. So conference finals is where I put the bar for this team, whether it's a successful season or not. And listen, you can tell me, hey, they had a good season, but they bowed out in the second round. I understand that. But I think to say, hey, this season was a smashing success, they have to get to the conference finals.
All right, there you go, man. The expectations set by the Knicks beat set the tone for this Monday, man. Fellas, thanks again for the time. It's going to be a busy week. Steph, you mentioned you have a new piece dropping when? Tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm not sure when it's going to go on the web, but I'm writing it today. So
okay.
It's either today or tomorrow.
Okay. On New York Post Plus, will you be writing about the Drizzy Rick Ross battle? Will we have a winner?
I've been to be honest, I've been trying to catch up with everything, man.
There you go.
So I don't know yet.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what's happening.
I'm trying to catch up too, man. I'm old, man.
That Drake, was it real?
Was it real? Was it the clone? Was it AI? You just never know, man.
I'm like Thibs, man. Is it Fakeagram or Facegram or whatever? I don't even know where to find these things. Where to find these songs.
Fred, what do you got coming up on The Athletic this week?
I got an OG story coming out at some point. I got a Thibs story coming out at some point. So yeah, look out for that. And then playoff preview stuff at the end of the series.
Looking forward to it, man. Ian, how about you, man? Anything coming up on SNY?
Yeah, we got playoff preview stuff coming up tomorrow, and then once we know the opponent, we got the putback on Friday. Should have a Mitchell Robinson story coming out at some point before the first round, so keep an eye there for all the Knicks stuff, and be sure to check out Bondy and Fred as well. They do a great job, so check out those.
Well, listen, man, I appreciate you guys coming on and getting along, man. I know it can get contentious on the beat. So, and listen, man, thanks again for coming in. Great job all season long, and we're going to look forward to it. And let's go Knicks, man. Thanks again, fellas.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
All right, man. Take care, fellas. All right, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Tales from the Knicks beat. Thanks again for tapping in. Remember that this show is available in audio podcast format. If you did miss it, no reason to miss it, man. Catch it on podcast, and salute to the replay gang. Thanks again for Fred, Ian, and Stefan for joining us. Remember to check out our sponsor, man, JordanCraig.com, and use our code KFTV20 for 20% off your first order, man. CP the franchise. I'm out of here, man. Peace.